Well, thanks for joining me today. I have a piece of an olive branch here, and I've turned it into a jewelry box on the bandsaw. So this is not your typical box. It's made on a bandsaw. Right there, there's a knot hole, and you can lift the lid off, and inside here, there'll be some compartments for jewelry. Now, what I want to try to do today is make a bandsaw box out of this large chunk of African mahogany. What I want to do then is to take this piece of wood, and when I turn it sideways, I want to cut a top off, a bottom off, and then make a circular cut inside, removing the cavity where the jewelry will be held, and then gluing the bottom back on. I'll put some turn knobs on here inside to hang jewelry and maybe a watch. Let's see what happens. The other thing I'd like to do is take my scroll saw and cut a pattern in here so light will show through and you can see some of the jewelry inside, almost like a stained glass window without the stained glass. Now I'll take my trim router and go around the edges and do a quarter round cut all the way around. And look how fast you can move this using these holdfasts on my workbench. So I'm trimming these away, and later on I'll go ahead and do the tops also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice off the front door about a quarter of an inch all the way down, take that off, and then I'm going to slice off the bottom all the way down. And notice I have these labeled front and back, so I won't have trouble mixing them up in any way. Now I'm sliding it right next to my bandsaw fence and trimming about a quarter of an inch off, and there it is. I cut the front and the tops off, and you'll notice that I labeled front so I'll know where this one goes. And the back is the same way. This is going to be glued onto the box after I take out the center part. So now let's go remove the center. I just love the bandsaw. This is speeded up, but take a look at how it cuts. This is just freehand. I put my thumb down and use it as a guide and make my turn slowly. And I'm cutting right through, gosh, 1.75 inches of mahogany, and it's like butter. Now let's gently pull it apart. It's fragile at this point, and you can see the cavity is removed and we have a nice border. So some things I'm going to clean up. Inside here I have a little bandsaw ripple. I'm going to sand this down, but I don't want to sand where these two pieces come together, because wherever it rippled, it is keyed in, the top is keyed into the bottom, and the glue line will pretty much disappear if I don't sand there. Now take a look, I put blue tape around here to kind of protect the edge. I don't want to sand that out. And this is sped up, but it's orbital sander, does a really nice job getting those ripples out. If you don't have one of these drum sanders, and they are wonderful, you can always use a dowel wrapped with sandpaper. I did that for years. Now I put a bead of Tite Bond all the way around the base, and on the adjoining part I'm flipping it over, and I'm going to get some squeeze out here. The important thing is when you get squeeze out, take a wet cloth and wipe it away, because wherever you leave it, the stain or finish will not take. Now it's easy to do that on the outside because you can sand it away, but the squeeze out internally is a little harder to get to. You have to do that very carefully. I'm putting blue tape here on the seam, so when I put weight on it right now, it won't slide around. Liquid against liquid just slides, so you have to have something like that tape to hold it in place. You might get the idea that I work for a 3M tape company, but I just like using this stuff. I've got a pattern here. I'm setting it as centered as I can. It's not symmetrical, so if it's a little off, it won't show. I have some glue pencil on the other side, just holding this down. and I'll push it down good and tight. And the next thing I'm going to do is a really great tip for you with scroll saws. I'm going to take some clear plastic shelving mat and I'm going to put it on the top. And the reason I'm going to do that is when you cut through this plastic, it is hot from the friction, it melts on the blade, and it becomes a lubricant and allows the blade to slide easily through the wood. Now I take my drill press and just come through each of the areas I want to cut out in my pattern. My scroll saw, this is a fun and easy cut. A lot of internal cuts, blade changes, but easy turns, and it comes out looking really nice, even for the novice. If you take a look here now, the reason for this blue tape is I can pull everything off. I don't have any sanding to do with paper glued onto my wood. I'll just pull it off. And there's some little pieces on here that are a little harder to do. But if you watch when I pull it off, it comes off and the wood just needs to be touched with sandpaper and it's ready to go. I'll pull it away and give you a full exposure here. Take a look. Beautiful. I'm happy with the way this has turned out so far. You can see I've sanded this. The sides look nice. The pattern looks nice. So what I'm going to do first is I have this here, and this was cut off the front. I'm going to slice off a slab of this, and I'm going to glue it down here on the bottom to make it kind of fit tight there, and another one at top to fit tight. I'll see how that works. So this is labeled the front, and what I'm going to do is cut in. I don't want to wreck this whole piece of wood. I'm going to cut in about 1.5 inches on both ends and make a slab out of those. So here we go. I would encourage any of you with bandsaws to make a guide jig like I have here. It's 90 degrees and it's so nice to use. And I have a video that will show you how to build this. So I'm cutting these little slabs off the end, and if I don't meet my cut perfectly, it doesn't even matter. After I've done that, then I'm going to take these small pieces and I'm just going to freehand trace kind of a border that will be glued on each side of my jewelry box, and you'll see this in a moment. You know, my fingers are very precious to me, so whenever I can use a little clamp like this to keep my fingers away from that bandsaw blade, I do it. It doesn't affect my ability to cut as accurately, and it just keeps my fingers a safe distance away. So here's where I am now. You can see my lid doesn't jiggle off because on the inside I'm still gluing this. There's these pieces of wood that are the same shape as this, and they keep it in place from jiggling away. The next thing I want to do is I want to put some of these little tiny magnets, round magnets, and they're actually 1/4 inch in diameter. So what I'm going to do is I want to put one in here, so when I put it there it'll just snap down. How am I going to find where it goes here? Well, what I did is I drilled a tiny hole right here. I don't know if you can see it. And I cut off a nail with a sharp point sticking out. And then after I insert that, there's a little bit of point sticking out. I can set this in place, and when it's just perfect, I can push it down, and then it gives me a little center point right here that perfectly lines up with this one. So now what I'm going to do is drill a 1/4 inch hole in here with a little Forstner bit, and also here, making sure not to come through the wood. And then I'm going to try to glue those magnets in there. Let's see what happens. So I've measured in here the thickness of this magnet, and I'm going to use that to get the depth of the hole that I need. It's okay to be a little bit proud because I'd rather have the magnet stick up a little bit than to be too deep into the hole. So here's what I have. I have the magnet here that's just a teeny bit proud, and this one's flush. Make sure if you do this that you get the poles of the magnets correct, or they will repel, and when you put it down and push it away. So when I go ahead and slot this in, you can see there's a nice snap there at the end holding it in. So here's where I am. I didn't have any more round magnets, so I put square ones here, a little drop of super glue in there, and this piece of wood and this piece of wood to kind of lock it from shifting too much. And when I put these down, you're going to see they lock in good and tight. I can flip it over and it holds on. Well, this is the completion of my two jewelry boxes. This one here is that rough one that looks like a log, and inside there's a place where you can take a ring or several rings and drop them on there, and they fit like that. And there's some compartments for some other things, and then this fits so nicely in there that when you get it lined up, it looks just like a log. So it's a unique little box. This one here, on the other hand, down here is the ring section, and I have grooves here so you can put multiple rings and they will catch on a groove. This is for the wristwatch. This is for necklaces and various and sundry things you can put down here. Probably the only thing I did bad on this one is I put a magnet here and a magnet here on top and bottom, and when you put this in place it really locks in and it's not easy to get apart. So that's locked in, and to open it you need to kind of go like that and pull it and get it off like that. So I hope you enjoyed watching this, and maybe at least it gives you an idea of some type of a box that you might want to make. Thank you for watching.